Hey guys, what's up? Stock Retail coming back to you. Happy Sunday. It is a great day where I'm at. Hope it's a great day where you are. Final Destination Bloodlines, the box office numbers came out for opening weekend looking very good. Looked like that hit 51 million. Sinners, Minecraft, Accountant, Thunderbolts all holding up pretty well, have some strong legs on a lot of movies. So we continue to just have movies clicking very well, which makes it very interesting, especially in light of if you saw my last video, or actually if you missed it, maybe go back. I gave you a full year forecast on 2025. I gave you a forecast on Q2, what the box office is doing, what that means to AMC's earnings. And it's very, very bullish, very positive, backed up with a lot of DD, so it was pretty reasonable. Reminding you the picture here of Sinners at IMAX and how many hundreds of people that is just at one showing, and you've seen how strong that's held up. That was funny to see. You can see the title of the video here is about PsyOps. There is a shill narrative developing, and a sort of play against you that is developing. I want you to just sort of start to see how you're above it, especially if you're an ape who's been here since 2021, or some of you say 2022, whatever. This movement is strong enough and old enough that you are above it, you are beyond it, and this stuff is just kind of dumb and won't affect you. But I do want you to see it before it's coming, because first off, if we can kind of call the shot, sometimes that takes away a lot of the power of the thing. And then also, you will be able to help guide others through it, as you see it develop and you go, okay, yep, I see that. And then just kind of using this picture too, because we had, speaking of psyop, this is not what I'm going to talk about today, but it paints in, I don't know, it's a good comparison of what happened. Right as Sinners was crushing it, as Minecraft was crushing it, as Thunderbolts was about to do very well, Bloodlines that we just had come out doing very well. That was right when a whole bunch of articles, you remember, like Variety ran an article that was, oh, maybe Sinners won't even make a profit. And that was like off of their day one box office, which of course they have crushed profits now. It's wildly profitable. And so that was like kind of FUD. And then like that was the day everybody in the industry, or at least sort of some negative voices in the industry, I should say, ran some articles about Netflix, kind of saying people don't even want to go to the movies anymore. And then, that was right when this picture came out and Ted Sarandos looked really, really stupid. So we're very much above the PsyOps and the FUD, and we're winning, but that doesn't mean it doesn't still bother me. And I do want my followers to still be informed and educated. And you guys know that I say facts over FUD. So first of all, I'm going to reground you. I'm going to fly through some slides I had in the last video or two, because what I want to set up is the reality of where we are, and that's going to give really great contrast to what a particularly large account is saying, and we'll kind of paint that picture. So first off, I just told you Final Destination Bloodlines came out 51 million this weekend. That was above my forecast, guys. So even if you go back and watch that last video before this, and I have a wildly bullish forecast, now Bloodlines even beat my opening weekend number. And the way I forecast any movies, once I know the opening weekend, I can kind of guess at the legs rolling forward and get to a total forecast for that movie, right? Well, that means my number for Bloodlines had to go up. So my forecast is even more bullish since I have talked to you last. Lilo and Stitch, Mission Impossible, Karate Kid, all coming out still just this month. And you guys know in particular, this next Memorial weekend, next weekend is going to be huge with Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible. So, gosh, I cannot tell you how big it's going to be, when we keep rolling, right? So June, then Ballerina, How to Train Your Dragon, Elio, Megan 2, 28 Years Later, F1. I had made the note that some of these you will see some of the revenue from these in Q3, but that's the way I forecast. So don't worry, it doesn't change my forecast. I already kind of guesstimate how much of the revenue from each movie is within a given quarter, and then how much rolls over, and then I count it in the next quarter. So all that is in my forecast. But the point is, the rest of May and then all of June are looking huge. And I'll even tell you, kind of, I don't know, revealing a little bit behind the curtain, that on Elio, I am actually under the industry forecasts right now. So perhaps there's even more room to get even more bullish. The only reason was that's, it's an unknown franchise, but boy, that looks really cute. It looks like perhaps there's a chance Pixar could recapture some of their magic. And when they do, that those do really, really well. So I guess that's just me spreading a little bit of hopium, let's call it. I'll laugh at the term, but perhaps Elio could beat my numbers and I get to even start bringing my overall quarterly number up. So if you watch that last video, then you know that Q2 is going to be very, very profitable. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll talk more about that. But then we don't stop with Q2, right? I had teased in the last video that in July alone, we get 3 of the top movies of the entire year. And that's going to set up Q3 to be very, very big. And also in July, we get Smurfs. That's, let's call it kind of counter programming, in that we have these 3 huge box office blockbusters, but then we also get this family movie that sort of well positioned, in terms of a genre separate from these blockbusters. So July then is going to keep us kind of, we're sort of going from strength to strength. If I would show you August looks really good too. And that's what I told you in the last video too. And so if you look at the full year forecast, this is a graphic I haven't shown in a while. I post this a lot on X, or I have in the past. I've shown this to you in a few videos. So let's revisit this, because this is actually now from my live forecast. I told you we'll kind of change the forecast as we go, as maybe movies do better or worse than I had expected. And so what had happened is, just as a refresh, or I know I have some new followers, if you go back to 2023, we had 2 quarters in a row that were profit. What this graphic is showing you is a set of yearly views. So these are rolling 4 quarters. So if you add up the last 4 quarters, like here's basically 2023, the full year. Here's Q1 2023 to Q4 2023. And so what had happened actually, and so really it's just showing you a year at the box office at any point in time. What had happened when we got to Q3, I guess that's here, where we had finished here, that Q2 and Q3 of 2023 were both profitable. Now, I want to pause on that actually. I hadn't planned on talking about this. Interesting that AMC had 2 profitable quarters back to back, and then we had the strike. I'll let you decide if the timing of that was suspect at all. But AMC back-to-back profitable quarters. We had the Barbenheimer quarter. We had some other big things. And AMC bottom line earnings, you can go look this up. I think it was $8 million in Q2 bottom line profit. And remember, we have some non-cash expenses, so really the cash flows are even better than that. And then we had $12 million bottom line earnings on the Barbenheimer quarter. And so then you can see we started, the industry was up and to the right? So say there had been a line that kept going up like this, and AMC would have been making profits all this time. But we had the strike, and so there was a huge blip, and you can just see, boom, we get thrown back. So not only has AMC dealt with COVID, then AMC dealt with the strike. By the way, that's something else critical to acknowledge the realities of that. When people try to troll Adam and why does he dilute and all those things, he had to keep AMC afloat through 2 massive disruptions to the entire industry, right? And so the shills don't like to acknowledge that fact. But then keep going. So where we just finished was Q1 2025, right? So we just finished here. I don't know if you can see my arrow that I'm kind of hovering. And what I'm telling you is we are steeply up and to the right from here. And so I want you to start thinking of the timing of when some shills came back. If we were starting to make profits when a year looked like this, now granted, I'm mixing sort of terms. We were making profits on those 2 individual quarters. That wasn't like a yearly profit yet. But now we're about to be well above that at a yearly view and then start to really climb. I'm just showing you through the end of 2025, and I've told you in many videos or on X, 2026 is even bigger, and then 2027 is still bigger. So we're in a multi-year industry run. If I was to extend this out, I am pretty confident 2026 is going to be over 10 billion at the box office. So this would just keep going up. And then you can imagine what that does to AMC's earnings, right? So here's what we're grounding ourselves in is, wow, huge industry turnaround, but let's not stop there. We're going to kind of cover a few more things. I had told you in the last video, so this is a bit of a repeat. I'm going to go through this quickly. The AMC team is forecasting around $9.5 billion at the box office this year. I'm at 9.7. That's why you see, oops, wrong way. That's why you see this line here. So at the end of 2025, the previous 4 quarters add up to that 9.7 at the box office. So what I'm really just saying is, hey, we just finished here and we're headed to the right over here, right? And just the next few months. This is, it's May. December's only 7 months away. So over these next 6.5, or I guess, 6.5 months plus, let's call it 7.5 months really, then we're going to be over here. That's in the immediate time frame. And so whether you want to take AMC's forecast for the year, 9.5 billion box office, my forecast 9.7, the industry, this was from Box Office Pro, is saying 9.3 to 9.7, right? So if you've got Box Office Pro, me, and the AMC team, all basically saying the same range of numbers, somewhere between 9.3 and 9.7, and I'm starting to hope there's even upside, to be honest. Like if Stitch goes even farther than I hoped, or like I said, if Elio delivered, what if Superman is some massive success? et cetera, et cetera. And so you know that the industry has recovered radically. I want you to just really cement that in your brain. It's going to matter when I come to this PsyOps that I'm talking about. Okay. So I had given you what that looks like in terms of AMC's earnings at those box office levels, and we're about to come to the PsyOps piece. At those box office levels, the final 9 months for AMC, we were looking at a growth of 25% revenue over the same 9 months last year, and a growth of $400 million of earnings over the same 9 months last year. And actually, that being positive $200 plus million of earnings over the same 9 months last year. Now, I had cautioned, you can see at the bottom of this, it's in all caps. There's going to be many swings to this forecast. Some movies are going to do better, some are going to do worse. AMC is going to talk to us about maybe expenses that I don't see coming, things like that. We're going to learn. So I'm not asking you to just say these are locked in numbers, but I'm telling you we are vastly, vastly improved. And that is about our fundamentals, right? And you can just see if I'm telling you positive earnings, and then you know Adam and team specifically said positive cash flows. I had been telling you for a long time that these 9 months also would be positive cash flows. So there again, you have his voice and my voice kind of saying the same thing. And I'm arriving at that just through my own spreadsheets. He's got a lot of information I don't have. And so we're kind of both saying the same thing. So we came into the quarter with, I think it was like 400 million plus dollars of cash, and from here on we're generating more cash. So if anyone was telling you that AMC has fundamental issues, what you should be seeing here is, wait a second, the box office is radically recovering. AMC's earnings are growing significantly and growing faster than the box office. Go back to the last video. I show that in a lot more detail. I kind of go spreadsheet nerd on that with you. And that I'm even saying for the full year, 2025, even with that rough first quarter we had finished in our rear view, that we may hit positive earnings on the year. Now that I do not feel super confident on yet. I can't tell you with a ton of confidence. But the point is, even that being in the conversation and certainly confirming that these 9 months are positive cash flows, then immediately you should be allergic to anyone spreading any kind of negativity or fear, right? You would know they're out of step with the data. And so either they're uninformed or they're intentionally misleading you. With that, let's get to the latest PsyOps I see developing. And hang with me because I'm going to show a few things that I see building. And over these 4 years, I've been very, very good at sniffing out what's going on because I watch a lot more than I let on. And I have sources that I don't even talk about. And I know things that I don't necessarily share. So let us look at me, Adam, Box Office Pro, and Trey. Okay? We're just going to go through these. So I just told you, box office. I said 9.7 billion. Adam said about 9.5 billion. Box Office Pro said 9.3 to 9.7 billion on the year. Trey, I have no idea. He hasn't talked about a box office number for the year, to my knowledge. That's going to matter in a minute because you need to decide. I tell you all the time, find voices of credibility and integrity. And if someone doesn't even know the numbers, how can they be credible? All right, so AMC earnings and cash flow. I've been telling you, maybe lower degree of confidence on the full year earnings, but I'm saying right now I'm looking at possibly positive, and on the cash flow, absolutely positive on the year. Adam, he's not necessarily given forward earnings guidance. I 100% respect that. He's in the movie industry. Movies can fluctuate wildly. I get that he can't necessarily give an overall earnings view, but he did give us a box office number, and you can kind of surmise from that what that means. And he has said, though, and so did Sean, our CFO, absolutely committed to positive earnings, positive cash flow. On Box Office Pro, obviously they would not comment on that. They're not giving forecasts on AMC. So NA here just means not applicable. Trey just did a video. You can go find this. He did a live. I got sources who came to me and said, hey, did you know this is what he was saying? He said he would stay away from this play and that AMC might go bankrupt. Now I ask you, if a company has $400 million and is generating positive cash flows, and that's in a year that's basically going to be our smallest of the next few years. It's getting bigger from here. You can logically, just think it through for yourself, right? It's very, very obvious that anybody saying that that company would go bankrupt either does not know what they're talking about or is spreading FUD. Well, it's FUD either way, but is it FUD on purpose or not? I'll let you decide, but it is FUD. All right, let's keep going. Fact-based DD to back up the claims. I just took you through, again, go back to my last video or go back to the years of videos I've done. I'm going to show you in a minute an entire playlist I have for you that goes through AMC's entire business model that I've done for a couple of years. Just a list of videos that will cover all of AMC's business model through the lens of a business person. Okay, so check for me. Adam obviously has, I mean, it would almost be an insult to say DD. Like, he knows the company more than any of us, right? That's literally the definition of DD. He has the homework. He has the numbers. He has the strategy. He knows the future. He knows the past. He knows the present. He's the guy. Yes, he has the DD. Box Office Pro, in terms of their forecasts, you can go find their logic and how they back up their forecasts and all of that. Trey, no, big thumbs down. He just kind of said, oh yeah, I would stay away from AMC. They're going bankrupt. No DD to back that up. That's a trust me bro. He's giving you a trust me bro. And what do I say on my channel all the time? No trust me bros. We don't do that here. Rode with you and never left. I mean, I can just skip forward. You already know the answer. I've consistently been here. I've consistently been fighting for what I believe is not just a stock, but a cause. Adam has not left. Adam has consistently been here. Again, I'll give Box Office Pro a hall pass on this one. That's not what they're about. Trey, no, he left you. So I just want you to really think about all that. And now I want you to, in a moment, I'm going to come to some things he is out there saying, besides scaring you that AMC might go bankrupt, which is insane. Go back to all the fundamentals I just showed you. Anyone saying that, at the very least, you must say they lack credibility. They have not done their homework. And immediately, if you're talking finances, I've warned you for years, don't listen to anybody on finances who doesn't check two really critical boxes. One is credibility. One is integrity. If someone cannot get things right, they're not credible. You should not be listening to them about your money. And if someone lacks integrity and is blown about by the wind and can be bought, you should not listen to them about your money. I cannot make it more clear than that. And actually, as I was driving, I gave my mom a ride today, and I had time to think about this video a little bit. And I was driving home, and I thought about, there is a third box you should probably check, and that is maturity. And I will just say, look, I am rooting for the guy on a personal level. I believe in grace. I believe in forgiveness. I believe in redemption. And so on all of that, I'm rooting for him. But in terms of listening to someone about finances, he has shown himself to be wildly immature. If you know his story, I'm not going to cover it all because I'm not trying to punch down here. But he has shown himself to be wildly immature. And so that is someone you should not be listening to with your finances. I'm sorry if that makes some of you sad, but that is a very, very important to me. And I feel protective of my investment and of anybody who I can sort of shield from lies. That is my personality. I think many of you know that. All right, so I have some playlists. You could go see, there are 26 videos in this fundamentals playlist. You can learn AMC's business model as deep as you want to go. There'll be things in there, forecasts that are wrong. There's stuff I talked about, before the strike ever happened. I wouldn't have seen that coming. The first of these is all the way back in like 2022, where I just picked apart AMC's business model for you and all that. And even in 2022, I was showing you how AMC would not need a pre-COVID box office to achieve better profits than pre-COVID. And what has Sean and Adam now been saying for a while? Exactly that. So, I could see it in the financials. I can analyze the financials and give you guys facts, and I've been doing that. So go, if you want fundamentals to back up the things I'm saying, go check that playlist out. So I guess I was just talking a little bit, do I believe in grace? Yes. I don't want to burn Trey or anything like that. But you guys are supposed to be beyond this at this point. We are supposed to be beyond this. I am almost 4.5 years in this play. So I'm going to give grace, but I'm not going to be naive or stupid. And if you want to keep pretending that people are not here to manipulate you, then I just don't know what to tell you anymore, because you have seen it over and over and over and over. And if a pattern happens, you're supposed to learn how to spot the pattern, right? That is how you make yourself FUD proof, and you make yourself, impervious to manipulation, right? The whole point is they manipulate you and they distort to mislead you. And so you could go find, I did a whole video. I outed Trey on his connection to Mark Cohodes, and how he was part of bringing Cohodes into the AMC community, and all of the story behind that. Go give you a history lesson on AMC. It's a very long video, but if you want to find that, that is this one. And it just matters to me that you guys know the truth. But now let's focus on what matters, okay? AMC's debt, speaking of fundamentals, is lower than 2019. By the way, I have seen on my YouTube channel, there are one or two accounts who keep trying to FUD you. Normally, after a couple of times, I block people and I just remove them because I don't let people try to sway sentiment with lies. Here's what's happening that you're going to see. You've probably seen it on whatever forums you like to be on. The shill, the manipulator, likes to quote our lease obligations as debt. And what I mean by that, our actual borrowing debt, the amount that we have borrowed that we need to pay back, is around 4 billion right now. I have to go look at the actual number. Could be just over 4 billion, but it's like 4.0 something. It's very, very close to getting down to 4 billion. And keep in mind, remember, if we ever run to the high fives, like say 566, Adam had said at one point, but somewhere up there, we're going to flip about another 400. I might be 414 is in my head. I'd have to go back, but that's in some of these videos too. We're going to flip over $400 million of debt into equity. The market has already priced in that dilution. It's out there. But anyway, so that would bring us down to like $3.6 billion of debt. Well, that is well below, and I put that in many videos as well. I think 2019 was like 4.5 billion or something like that. You go look, I've put that chart up dozens of times. But so our debt is much lower. And so what happens is the shills then, instead of just quoting our borrowing as our debt, they like to quote the lease obligations. Now, think about this for a minute. Every quarter, you see rent. And I've shown you how rent is lower than 2019. In fact, I think I've just stolen one of my future bullets on this slide. Rent is lower than pre-COVID. So one of AMC's biggest expenses, which is a fixed cost, which does not go up as the box office goes up, right? So that's another part of the thesis with AMC, that as the box office goes up, if some of our costs do not go up, we become ever more profitable, right? So that's something Trey's also not telling you about, frankly, because he doesn't even have a business background and just hasn't shared any of that level of detail with you guys. If our rents are lower than pre-COVID and are not going to go up in general, then it is interesting that you have that rent item on the expense report. Every quarterly filing, you have that. And then what happens is the shills try to say, hey, all the future rent that you're going to pay, we're going to count that as debt. So they like to quote us as having 8 billion in debt. That's what you're going to, anytime you see someone saying 8 billion in debt, what they're doing to you is treating future rent as debt. But let me ask you something. If you have a theater that is making money and you're paying rent on it, which is just part of your expenses, and you report those expenses all the time, why would you bother counting that as debt? Now, the argument they'll make is you get really deep into accounting rules. There were some accounting rules changes, I want to say 1.5 to 2.5 years ago, somewhere in about that range, where leases start to count as basically obligations. The idea is, hey, in the future, AMC is going to have to pay these rents. Well, duh, we rent movie theaters and we make a lot of money on them. And so I'm perfectly fine with that. And reporting that to you as debt is really misleading because, first of all, we don't pay interest on that. Second, we're not going bankrupt or something. You could lose a property, I suppose. If you don't pay rent, a landlord could kick you out. But that is not part of the short and distort, and the squeeze thesis. The thesis was we're not going bankrupt and we can outweight the shorts, right? So when they put that $8 billion number up there, what they're trying to do is scare you and tell you AMC can never survive and AMC won't be profitable and all these things, which also, by the way, our being in debt has nothing to do with us making profits. I just told you 2025 is probably full year profits, or at least has a chance at full year profits. That's with our current debt load. If you have a house and you can make your mortgage payments, you don't sit there awake at night worrying about the fact that you have a mortgage. You just are like, I have enough income for this. I'm good to go. And I'm paying it off over time. That's where AMC is at. We're profitable and paying off our debt over time. So anybody trying to tell you that we need to be debt-free to win this squeeze play, or for AMC to just make profits as a fundamental story, they either haven't done their homework or they're just trying to FUD you. And anybody trying to put the future lease amounts in debt is also generally trying to FUD you. So I want you to know that our debt is 4 billion. All right, our revenue is higher based on the box office than in 2019. In other words, say we have a $2.9 billion quarter right now. That same $2.9 billion quarter in 2019, AMC made a lot less money. So at each level of the box office, AMC is making way more money now than we did before. And that's going to come from these next few lines. So first of all, we've got popcorn in thousands and thousands of doors. That did not exist in 2019. We've got our own branded candy in-house, which has higher margins than if, like say, the chocolate-covered pretzels. If we sell the AMC chocolate-covered pretzels, we make more money on those than if we were selling, say, Hershey's chocolate-covered pretzels. That did not exist in 2019. You should be hearing how much better our business is. Trey's not out there talking about that. We have investment in a gold mine, right? We did not have that, a silver and gold mine. We did not have that in 2019. And I've told you, any movement in that stock counts as income for AMC, right? So that's better. The merch, go look at the other revenue lines somewhere in AMC's filings from the past. Adam even told you our merch has basically gone from pretty much zero to right now about $75 million a year. That just basically it's not only higher, which just kind of didn't exist in 2019. So that is another massive, massive improvement in the business model. We have our food and beverage per person it's not just higher, it's almost double. I shouldn't quite say double, but it's like 70% higher or something than in 2019. We were in the $4, like say 440 or 420 or something. And now we're in the high, mid to high sevens. Like we've had a quarter at around 750, I want to say. I had told you guys I'm forecasting closer to 736 this quarter. So way, way higher. When someone comes to AMC, they're spending a lot more money on food and beverage, which is high margins for us. And then our admissions per person is way higher than 2019. Our rent, I already told you, is lower than 2019. And keep in mind, with the Go program, we've been investing. We have more premium screens and more premium seating now. That's continuing to actually grow. We're not done growing there, and more already than 2019. So if someone's going to talk to you about the fundamentals, but they're not going to tell you all of this stuff, and they're just going to say, oh, they might go bankrupt, you've got to start learning to tune those voices out and say, that is someone who has not done their homework and is not credible to comment on my stock and may even be trying to manipulate and distort. And so I'm not listening to them. That's very important that you have voices who will tell you everything. And here's the thing, timing matters. When did Trey come back? And I'm sorry, guys, I did not want to do this. I thought I did that video a while ago and I'm done talking about him. But if he's going to start coming and talking about my investment, it matters to me. This is my money on the line that he's talking about. This is your money on the line. And this is I'll call it like, I don't know. It really bothers me when people are misled, and I'm always going to fight against distortion and manipulation. Okay. So here's the thing. Look at the timing. I want you to notice these things. He came back right here. I'm showing you domestic box office by quarter, right? So we had the strike, bam. We recovered a bit, and they're kind of a post-strike hangover. I told you guys the whole thing about air bubbles and when you turn on water and you got to get bubbles through the pipes. Well, we had a bubble quarter, right? This was a bit of an air bubble, but then boom, look at the rest of the quarters, right? So Trey came back here saying I would stay out of AMC, but he is not talking about the fact that we are here. Again, that is either someone who's not credible, not talking about the information that's right in front of your face, or someone who is intentionally misleading. Either of those is a disqualifier for talking about your money. And there's more, guys. The messaging is clear because if I went back and I looked through the transcript, honestly, I felt dirty. I don't want to see his videos. I don't want to spend time on there. I don't want to give the guy ad revenue because I see him as a real problem. Again, go back and watch the other video I pointed to for the whole story on that. But I did. I went and looked at the script and I saw, at one point he's even talking to someone that I also feel is a real problem. And he's building a narrative to try to make us look bad. There's a poor guy who blew it all. What a dummy. The apes are stupid. Look at these bullets I'm reading you. The second one, you're going to see through there. There's a whole gambler narrative. Listen, I believe in a redemptive story. And in fact, as an aside, I actually believe if you take your biggest failures and you take your biggest shames and you be willing to talk about them in a growth arc and you be willing to tell others, listen, this is something I did wrong in my life and here's how you could get it right. That redeems a thing in big, big ways, and it's very powerful, and you become someone who can provide growth and healing to others. I am not saying it's a problem to talk about what's gone wrong. In fact, it can be a huge gift, and you get set free, because when you sit and hold your mistakes over your own head in shame, You're like isolated and stuck and you're in handcuffs under that shame. But the second you say, the shame doesn't own me and the mistake doesn't own me, I own it, and I'm going to be able to talk to people about it, and here's a thing I did wrong, and here's how you could get it right. Guys, that's so powerful. You can break free of a lot of things. So sorry about that sort of aside and preaching a little bit, but I don't know, that just was coming to me just now, and it does matter. So I want you to know I'm not judging him for talking about this, but I'm seeing the potential for a narrative developing, and I want you to be immune to it. So he's got this gambler narrative, don't be like me, and then they're going to tie that to AMC, GameStop, etc. Like, don't be like this, stay away, be careful, run away. All those AMC apes, they're just a bunch of gamblers. They'll talk about his rage and his roid issues and all that stuff. And so, listen, if I'm wrong, then honestly, I will ask forgiveness and I will just say, hey, I got it wrong. But if he starts tying any of this stuff to AMC, then you need to spot that. And at the very least, him talking about AMC going bankrupt, that's just a point of fact. That's black and white. That was wrong. So, and in spite of all these disqualifiers, I told you that he's immature, right? An immature person is not someone you take any financial wisdom from because immaturity is a hallmark of a lack of wisdom. But he's saying, I'd stay away from AMC. And he's saying there's a point of view on AMC's fundamentals with no DD. I just want you to see how those don't go together. Take those first three bullets, take these middle bullets. There's a disconnect, and it's a disqualifier. And so I do believe he's here to make us look like a bunch of uneducated, gambling, chaotic people. And I want you to ask yourself, too, do you know anyone else out there who makes us look rage-based and uneducated? And do you really think that's an accident? Spot the pattern, spot the theme. There are people here for a reason. I'll leave it at that. But here's the bottom line. You've been here too long to fall for their tactics. You're above this. You've had too many betrayals to pretend that you don't see it anymore, right? It could be probably, I'm gonna speak gently about this, but when people are in abusive relationships, you keep excusing away the patterns of the abuser. And when people are in dysfunctional homes, let's say someone is an addict, I had to watch people in my family go through 12-step programs, and I had to learn a lot about how users and abusers work. And I will tell you, users and abusers will constantly have you second guessing yourself and constantly having you ignoring what you see in front of your eyes and constantly excusing away behaviors and choices and decisions. And I'm just telling you, you can love someone without excusing away all of the stuff that is breaking everything. Okay? So stop pretending you don't see it with some of these people just because you want them to be with us. What you want and what is real, if there's a disconnect between those, you're putting yourself in a situation for things to go badly for you. Okay? So accept what is real and then be the best you in that. I didn't mean to have all this preachy stuff here today. I'm not trying to be a self-help guy, but these are the things I believe, so they come out of me. All right. Here's more bottom line. We're in a multi-year industry turnaround. AMC's fundamentals mean profits now. Q2 is a highly, highly profitable, guys. Go back, look at the video. I back that up with DD, the last video before this. And AMC's fundamentals, it's not arguable, are better than in 2019. It's just not even arguable. It's provable. It's already proven with DD. And a host of accounts in the middle of all that are circling to tell you the exact opposite. You need to spot that pattern. But above all, you already know we will win. So let's go.